Hello everyone and welcome back to Learn to Love DIY. Today we're creating these fabric pumpkins. I hope you enjoy this tutorial, and if you haven't already, we'd love it if you subscribe. So as you can see here, I have a couple different sizes, and what I used to create these was an old shirt that I actually got from my sister. She had used it for a lamp covering, and I decided to go ahead and use it since it was a bit stretchy. And I really liked the texture of the material, so I was able to make quite a few. I ended up making four of the smaller version pumpkins, and then two slightly larger ones. And all I needed was, like I said, the fabric. I got some hot glue, some sticks that I had used for some of my faux cotton stems, and then some thread that I went ahead and tied at the end, and I made sure that it was double. And then I'm using as stuffing an old pillow that I had in my home. And so to get started, once you have your thread and your needle, you're going to go ahead and sew the bottom, as you can see me doing here. And I'm going ahead and leaving a little bit of that thread on the edge there so that I'm able to make a knot once I finish sewing the bottom portion of this pumpkin. And I'm not doing it in any special way, just going back and forth, just like you would regularly sew something. And then I'm gonna go ahead and tighten it all up as much as possible. And sorry that I'm off frame here, but what I did is I went ahead and did 2 loops with the thread before I went ahead and tied a few knots to make sure that it wouldn't unwind on me. So I'm just doing the knots now, and once I go ahead and do this, I'm going to go ahead and cut it with my pair of scissors and turn it around, turn it inside out so that I'm able to stuff it with the pillow stuffing here that I've already cut. And I did go ahead, and before I put the pillow stuffing in there, I went ahead and kind of spread it out so that it was a little bit fluffier and a little bit better for me to go ahead and squish it in there and to make sure that I was able to fill it as much as possible. The more fluff you have in there, the better you're able to make those creases for the pumpkin. And so that's what I kind of wanted to do. Alright, so now that we're sewing the top of our pumpkin, I went ahead and inserted my thread there through the inside first, and I'm just weaving my needle in and out just like I did for the bottom. However, you're doing it on a single, not the whole thing, and you're going around the pumpkin. And then once you go ahead and arrive at the end, you'll be pulling it as tightly as possible and just leaving a little bit of room in the middle so that you're able to insert your needle and your center, and which in this case will be a piece of the twig or stem of the tree that I was able to grab. So as you can see me here, I'm pulling both ends before I tie a few knots on there. And you're trying to, make sure that you leave some room. And in this case, I went ahead and inserted the stem in there so that it was the appropriate amount of room. And then I'm just doing a whole bunch of knots. And once I do that, I'll remove the stem from the center, cut most of the ends there, and then try to tuck in the edges as much as possible so you're not able to see what I went ahead and sew. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut another bit of the thread so that we're able to make those creases in our pumpkin. And again, do it double. And the kind of thread that I'm using is a little bit thicker than the normal kind that you would use, and I suggest that you whatever you have in your stash you can use, absolutely. But if you have something thicker like what I'm using, or even if you have a bigger type of needle, I've seen a lot of people use even like thicker twine, like what how the thread that you use to embroider, which is a little bit thicker, you can use that as well. And so here what I did is inserted the needle in the center and then just started to pull. Now I did lose a bit of my video. Somehow it got deleted, and so I'm showing you what I did in this particular steps with the bigger of my pumpkins. And like I said, you start off inserting the needle from the top, and I did that so that the edge or the end of my thread stays inside, and you're not seeing that on the bottom. And so you just keep on pulling, making sure that you're equally distributing the what is it called, the little sides of your pumpkins, or the wedges that you're creating with the thread. And then once I go ahead and insert it and have it as tight as I want as I'm going, I go ahead and use my hand to hold the thread so it doesn't get loose while I'm looping it around to do my next crease. And you repeat these as many times as you want. For my pumpkins, I ended up doing it 5 times for each one. And then once I went ahead and created my final step or my final loop, I went ahead and did a couple of knots at the bottom of the pumpkin. And I did it as tiny as possible so that you wouldn't see too much of that thread coming off of the bottom, just because I didn't want it to look too messy. And then I just kind of looped it around a couple of times, made a couple of knots, and then just cut the string or the thread, sorry. And then once you go ahead and seal it, you kind of just want to fluff it up and fix it in, any way that you kind of want it to be. And then for this larger pumpkin, I didn't use one of the stems. I actually cut up 4 of them because I wanted a thicker center since it was a bigger pumpkin, and I didn't have anything in my house that was going to be as thick as I wanted it. And so I tried to glue 4 of these together, and then I applied glue in the end and stuck it in there, and then tried to fix it as much as possible. And because my gap ended up being a little bit too much for my liking, or too big for my liking, I went ahead and took out my twine that I actually have used for other projects that I purchased at Walmart. And I'm going to go ahead and just wind it around my stem here, almost to the tip, and you only a little bit of the sticks are showing at the end there. And I just keep winding it as I go and applying the hot glue. And I'm not sure if you guys, if you are subscriber, I'm pretty sure you've seen when I made burlap flowers. Well, this is the residue or the leftover of when I made those, and I knew they were going to come in handy since I had saved all of it. I just thought that this would give it an extra nice touch to my pumpkins, and so I went ahead and used it. It's thinner than the regular jute twine that I've used in the past, or that they sell either at Walmart or the Dollar Tree, and it's perfect because you can layer multiples of these together, and they just give it that extra fun look. And I wanted that kind of farmhouse shabby look for my pumpkins. And so here, like I said, I just grabbed a few. I didn't even count them, just a bunch, and then cut the ends, made a little bow. And then to secure it onto the stem and the pumpkin, I went ahead and just played around with it and make sure that I covered most of the ends there to make sure that none of the inside was looking or peeking out, that is. And so you just see me here trying to adjust everything. So at the end, I think they turned out pretty great. I got, as I said, 2 of the large ones and 4 of the small ones. And as you can see, they turned out absolutely beautiful. I was very proud and very happy because I had never created these before. So I'm definitely going to be making some more, especially to give gifts for the season. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. If you have, give it a thumbs up, and thank you for watching.